Linda Ann glanced up at the clock. Only 3 a.m. Pulling her ample buttocks off the shaky metal stool, she stretched. What we need around here is a little action. Now you hush your mouth, Linda Ann, another nurse admonished. You know that's bad luck. Linda Ann laughed. In this sleepy little town, nothing's ever going to happen here. She swung around slowly, looking at the only 2 patients among the 9 curtained cubicles. Guess I'll go check on Mrs. Jones. Hey, since you're up, check on Barbie too. If her headache's gone, let her call for her ride. Linda Ann slipped into cubicle 6 and pulled the curtains closed. Checking the IV, she let her hand run gently along the bruises and skin tears left behind by an understaffed nursing home. Linda Ann hoped she'd be dead before she ended up in Whispering Pines. She froze at the sound of loud voices from outside the curtain. Peeking around the edge, she counted 4 men, dressed all in black, even to the ski masks. And they were waving guns. Linda Ann backed up against the one solid wall, hoping to melt right through it. One of the men threw back the curtain and pointed his gun at her. Get out here, you! Linda Ann paused. The man's stance looked familiar. I said, come out here! This time, the man nearly shouted. His voice sounded familiar, too. When she stepped out, she glanced at the far end of the room, where 2 of the attackers held the 3 other staff secure in a small bay. Linda Ann's gaze drifted to the counter. Not 12 feet away sat the red phone, the one hardwired to the police dispatcher. All she'd have to do was knock it off its perch, and the police would come investigate. Her captor directed her to the drug dispensing machine. Open it up! Let's see what you got. You know, Demerol and them Percocets. Linda Ann bent to enter her code and security lock when she stopped abruptly. What did you say? She turned and stared into the ski-masked face. He stared back. I want to hear you talk again, she insisted, but the fellow remained silent. She walked up to him, studied his profile a moment more, and lifted up the ski mask. I thought I recognized that voice. Jerry P. Kelly. Just what the hell do you think you're doing? The other attackers pulled off their masks, and Jerry patted down his hair with one hand. Ha-ha! Surprise! It's a drill! Linda looked around the room, recognizing the 4 men that made up the security guard team here at Memorial Hospital. She shook her finger at one of them. George Conrad, you should be ashamed of yourself. George gave a little smile. You should have seen your face. I thought you was gonna pee them pants. Jerry gave a small chuckle. Funny, Linda Ann choked on her words. You thought this was funny? Threatening someone with a loaded gun is your idea of a joke? The guns weren't loaded. Show them, Boudreaux. Obediently, Boudreaux pointed his shotgun in the copying machine and let both barrels go. Click, click. Linda Ann began to reach for the red phone, but paused and redirected to her purse. Funny, huh? Then you're gonna love this. She unzipped a side pocket and pulled out a Derringer, a tiny antique thing with a shiny barrel. She raised it slowly until it pointed straight at Jerry's head. Mine's loaded to poppin', Mr. Jerry P. Kelly, and I've got half a mind to shoot this off in self-defense. Jerry backed up a step, but Linda Ann leisurely advanced, the gun held steady. I got plenty of witnesses who'll testify that I was terrified out of my mind. Why, I'm certain no court in the world would convict me. Jerry backed into his flat against the glass wall. Linda Ann stepped closer, bringing the gun to rest snugly against Jerry's left temple. She pushed in, just a touch, indenting the skin against the bone beneath. The more I think about it, the more I like this idea. You know, Jerry, I've never really liked you.
Now, wait a minute, Linda Ann. This wasn't anything personal. I thought we were all past that. This here's just about hospital safety. You know, I'm the safety officer. You do know that, right?
Linda Ann raised her other hand and slowly pulled back the hammer until it clicked into place. I'll tell you what I know, Mr. Safety Officer, sir. I know how you're always making comments about my legs in public. Yes, sir, I've heard them, and I've seen you and your boys here pointing and laughing.
No, that ain't right. We weren't laughing at your legs.
Really? Then what were you laughing at, Mr. Safety Officer, sir? What is it about my rear end that you find so amusing? Jerry's sweat began to drip down the gun and onto her hand. She pushed it in a little harder. Linda Ann, baby, this was only a joke. Don't go calling me baby. I never was your baby and I never will be. 'Cause this is the end of the road for you, Mr. Safety Man. She pulled the trigger, and the hammer flew closed. Click. In the silence that followed, Linda Ann casually withdrew the gun and dropped it back into her purse. Oh, I guess mine wasn't loaded neither. My mistake. Jerry collapsed onto the floor. Sliding against the counter, he stared up at Linda Ann.
You think that was funny?
Linda Ann nodded slightly. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.